It's the biggest game in European football, Champions League final, PSG against Inter Milan. Firstly, I want to ask you, did you back PSG or Inter at any point, like earlier in the tournament? Who did you back?
I backed PSG.
Early in the
Not
tournament.
early, but from the round of 16s, I backed PSG.
Oh, backed into it earlier in the tournament. And I've kind of fallen off of it a little bit. And in recent rounds, I've gone against my early pick. But saw them when they played against Arsenal. Saw them when they played against you lot at your place. It was a terrible game.
Yeah.
But that's what Inzaghi does, right? He managed to navigate through competitions. And I just think he's one of the best coaches in the world. With limited talent, let's be honest, they've got a couple of standout players. But in comparison to the teams that made the final four of the Champions League, by far the least talented squad in the competition. But I think the most talented coach.
I think it's quite an interesting one because you kind of look at the teams and you know roughly how the game's going to go. You know that PSG will be running the Inter's midfield ragged. You know that those wingers and Dembele will be running the defence ragged, and you know that they'll have a lot of chances, and you know what Inter will do. They'll be incredibly stubborn, they'll be very, very tactically astute, and they'll try and rely on a certain few chances. And that's what makes this game so exciting is it's basically, I mean, all football is, right? But this game particularly boils down to who can just take those chances at the important moments. And I think that's what makes it a 50-50, because you look at it, and you look at PSG's 11, and we've done another video on it. It is pretty much flawless. It is absolutely unbelievable. It's so electric. It's so exciting. Then you look at Inter's and you look at the age of the players. You look at Kothari and he couldn't even start for Manchester United. So that was like 4 years ago that happened. It wasn't like last summer. And I just think that's what makes this game so interesting, is that whoever comes up in that moment, probably first, will be the winners.
Let's break this down. Let's go with Inter Milan, because I think PSG, we almost know what's going to happen, but I think Inter Milan will be able to devise a plan. They did it against Man City. We'll definitely talk about that final as well. But this back line, you've mentioned Bastoni in a separate conversation we had. Acerbi goes and scores that goal against Barcelona. Jan Sommer made some unbelievable saves. And then Benjamin Pavard, who had that wonderful World Cup goal, I think it was, for France against Argentina, and then he's become the forgotten man. But he sweeps up behind them wing-backs, which is where all three of us believe they could have some joy.
I don't know if they're going to have as much joy in this game, because DeMarco, granted, it's Lamine Yamal, and he's one of the best players, if not the best player in the world, had a tough time, right? Every time Yamal got the ball, it was curtains for DeMarco. Had to triple team him. Had to shift Mkhitaryan over to that side. Bastoni and DeMarco had to triple team a 17-year-old. They're going to have to think about not only the right winger, who we assume is going to be Doué, but it could be Barcola. Also have to worry with the right back and Hakimi as well. Has been one of the most offensive fullbacks in the tournament this season. So I think normally Inter Milan gained their advantage out wide, but I think of how devastating PSG's fullbacks and wingers are, I don't think that we're going to see them have as much joy in terms of the Dumfries and DeMarco out wide.
I think we saw in the Arsenal game, Kvara had to do a lot of work on Saka to drop in and help Nuno Mendes out, which I thought was interesting, because Nuno Mendes, when he came up against Salah, did a very good job. But against Saka, I did feel with the direct power, because I think he struggles with power rather than pace. Guys that want to get the ball and get to the byline, that's what I think he doesn't enjoy that much. Dumfries is that guy. He wants to, and Dumfries is very good at lurking, because he hangs on that. He basically stands on the byline and tries to win flick-ons or competes physically. And I think that matchup could be quite interesting. Do you think Kvara and Doué or Barcola, whoever it is, will, as bad as they sound, take this on the same way they did with Arsenal, the same level of seriousness? Because are they looking at Inter Milan and going, I can probably cheat a little bit here because their wing-backs can get forward and our full-backs can handle them?
I think the problem is that Kvaratskhelia and Doué are both so quick and so good that anytime DeMarco and Dumfries get forward, if they have the ball in and around the PSG's area and they lose the ball, that is almost guaranteed to be a PSG chance. We saw it so many times against Arsenal, saw it against Liverpool as well. I think Doué naturally will do a lot less work running back than Kvaratskhelia, because I think Kvaratskhelia got probably more energy, and I think he's probably coming up against the tougher of the fullbacks in Denzel Dumfries. And I think Doué will likely, I would imagine, just sit out there. I think he would sit out there waiting for the space. And the passes are obviously going to come. They've got three unbelievable midfielders in Neves, Vitinha and Ruiz. So those balls are going to come. And I just think it could get very long for Inter Milan very quickly if they don't watch that.
There's one other thing that I think I wanted to talk about is Inter's pressing. So if you go back and watch some of Inter's performances against Barcelona, but also PSG's performance against Arsenal, they got caught out a few times when they tried to play out PSG, and Inter pressed really well. I've got a stat here that says Inter pressing led to 5 interceptions in the attacking third against Barcelona. Now Barcelona are very like La Masia, they're taught to play out from the back. I think PSG, Marquinhos in particular, over the years has had bad moments in Champions League games. One, could the pressing catch them out? And two, nerves.
I think that may be the initial instruction from Inzaghi for Inter Milan to go and press PSG. But it's a Champions League final. And so I think your natural inclination is to maybe not press as hard because you don't want to get caught out of position. I think the last time we saw an exciting Champions League final was 2018 when he played against Real Madrid. And that's partly because Karius was terrible. I think most Champions League finals in recent years, they're not exciting games, right? So we expect the PSG to be a swashbuckling side. I don't think we see that. And I don't think we see Inter Milan press as high as we've seen in previous rounds. I think they sit a little bit deeper, try and make it... they're not going to sit in a low block, but I think we see PSG have a lot of possession in front of Inter Milan, and we don't see the transition game of PSG because Champions League finals just don't lend themselves to that. It's normally pretty tight. So I don't think pressing comes into this. I think it comes down to moments of quality in the final third from either Inter Milan or PSG.
And I think that's what makes it interesting. I think if this was like weirdly a regular league game, I think you'd look at that and you'd go, yeah, PSG are probably going to do Inter over because we know what pattern of play it's going to lie. But you are right. I think Inter are just going to sit back. They're going to try and invite PSG on. I think the problem with that is that you look at those front three, they're all wonderfully technical and they can hit you on both feet, which is going to be a bit of a struggle. But I do just think, as you say, it's going to come down to those moments like most Champions League finals do. And I think the fact that Inter Milan have had that moment, particularly that moment against Barcelona, that might give them a little bit of an edge. I
also think one thing PSG have done really well throughout the tournament is the lack of a 9. They obviously have Gonçalo Ramos on the bench. They don't use him. Against a back three, a Cherby who at his age wants to go man to man with someone. He wants to hold someone's shirt basically and get close. Pavard doesn't really want people running beyond him. He's not that quick. And Bastoni, I actually think, is probably one of the most complete centre-backs in the world. But he will probably be able to handle that right-hand side. He'll chip in and do his bit. But then this lack of a 9, I'm split on this. sometimes I think it's a good thing. In a game like this where it's going to be tight and congested, I think it could end up being a bad thing because I think the game that you obviously played against, not you specifically, but Man City played against Inter in that Champions League final when did you play with a 9 that day? You did, didn't you?
Yeah, I played with Haaland.
Yeah, so Haaland played up top and he was pretty...
shut out.
Yeah, he was anonymous because they had 3 centre-backs. So in a lot of ways, maybe I have a chance to my own question. Not having a 9 might work.
Yeah, I think so. I think, just as I said before, I think the quality that all 3 of those have and the different types of attack that they can use, the fact that they can all shoot from distance. We've seen all 3 of them score goals from outside the box in this Champions League. And I just think sometimes when you do play with the 9, as we saw in the Champions League final with Manchester City, yes, City did win, but Haaland got absolutely no service because it was predictable what City wanted to do. They wanted to get the ball into him. And because of Bastoni's experience, because of Acerbi's experience, they weren't able to do that. And I think, again, as I say, I think that will probably favour Inter a little bit.
I do also feel like they know how to play the system. They played the system for the majority of the season. And I think Champions League is less about like having that out-and-out number 9. Of course, everyone will love it, but you can almost game plan for those type of players. And I've seen a player like Haaland struggle in major finals because teams have longer to game plan. If you've just got X factors, and that's what you need across the front line, X factors, somebody that can put the ball in the back of the net or create a moment of magic. Again, I always bring it back to Chelsea, but in 2021, we didn't have a number 9. It was Kai Havertz playing as a false 9, Timo Werner on one side and Mason Mount on the other side. Again, I'm not calling any of those players X factors and now play for rival sides. But at the time, they were players that could do something and make a difference. And so the number 9 thing is, I think, is a little bit overstated. As long as you've got players that can create something and put the ball in the back of the net, I think you'll be fine.
All right, let's get score predictions. Kim, I'll start with you.
God, do you have to start with me? I think it's a really, really difficult one to call. I think it's probably going to be a slightly less exciting game than we want it to be. As Kweku said, Champions League finals are never that exciting. I think it will hinge on the moments, but I do just think the PSG have too much quality, and I just feel like the fact that they've been to a Champions League final before, lost, they had all these stars, they had Neymar, they had Messi, they had Mbappe, they couldn't get over the line. It just feels like there's something special about this team. So I'm going to go with 1-0 PSG.
With Inter Milan, I think Similarly to Spurs in 2019, I think they used up their magic in the semi-final. I think PSG are just a better team like Liverpool were in 2019. I don't think it's going to be a vintage PSG performance, but I think they get over the line and claim their first ever Champions League title, winning the game 2-1.
I think it's tough, man. Like,
You've been backing Inter all
I've
year.
backed Inter the whole way, but I also said when PSG...
Don't run!
Hey, let's everybody slow down here. Let's take a breath. I also said when PSG beat Liverpool that I think that was their moment that they came... They sort of arrived into the team that everyone imagined them to be. Then they went and did it again and again and again. But I just think Inzaghi, again, Luis Enrique is a tactical genius as well, to be fair. I think Luis Enrique is the only manager that can plan for Inzaghi's plan. But equally, I think Inzaghi is the only manager that can plan for his. But I backed into the whole way, and I don't know how much I believe it. But I think Inter will win on pens, but I think it'll be 1-1 in the game.